Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to look at the Da Vinci Code, and the exoteric interpretation of this movie was that Jesus got married and had a child. And of course that angered a lot of people. However, there's a deeper meaning to this story, and it's all about the divine androgyne giving birth to a race of androgynes, which is what Freemasonry is all about. And that's the great secret that they are in charge of concealing from us and protecting for themselves. So first of all, the movie starts out with the divine androgyne, Columbia. Now, by the end of this video, you may understand how all three of these images represent the same exact thing, the androgynous god. So the main character, Robert Langdon, a professor of religious symbology. And 33rd degree Freemason Albert Mackey says that the definition of Freemasonry is a science of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. Symbols are a language that can help us understand our past. And if you look at his hands, he's actually giving himself a Masonic handshake. And he actually does the same exact sign at the very end of the movie when he discovers the great secret. All right, but here's some images of the Masonic handshake. And the Masonic handshake represents unity, bringing two opposites together. Then the next symbol we see is of Saturn, which is never really explained as far as I could tell in this movie. But that's the symbol of Saturn, all right? Chronos, time. Time magazine, all right, the 7 planetary forces. All right, then he talks about the pagan god Horus and his mother Isis, okay, and of course the father Osiris, the female and male halves of one god, who is a self-generating god, in this case giving birth to Horus, who, as we'll see later, is esoterically the androgynous union of Osiris and Isis. And that's the same way they view Jesus Christ and his father and mother. All right, this is from an Encyclopedia of Freemasonry from 1916, from Albert Mackey, 33rd degree Freemason. The right angle triangle is another form of this figure which is deserving of attention. Among the Egyptians, it was the symbol of universal nature, the base representing Osiris, or the male principle, the perpendicular Isis, or the female principle, and the hypotenuse Horus, their son, or the product of the male and female principle. All right, the product of the male and female principle combined, fused. All right, so the hypotenuse is a tranny. All right, Horus is a tranny. So that's the foundation of all these mystical religions. Now, Constantine and the Catholics continued with this mystical interpretation of the male and female god and goddess fused together with the androgynous child. And then he gives us the swastika, all right, which is an ancient Buddhist and mystic symbol. According to Blavatsky, the swastika is an androgynous symbol. The double sign is, as every student of occultism knows, the symbol of the male and the female principles in nature of the positive and the negative, for the swastika is all that and much more. The esoteric meaning of this is earth fallen into generation or into the production of its species through sexual union. So the character Robert Langdon writes his book that they show in the movie called Symbols of the Sacred Feminine. All right, and look at the picture on the left. You see the dual-headed androgyne right there on the cover of that book. These symbols actually appear all throughout this movie. In a scene very soon after that, we see the moon, symbolizing Venus. And then we have this scene here, the two triangles. The two are geometric echoes. We have a triangle pointing up and one pointing down. Then they explain what that means in this movie. Then we have the Vitruvian Man, and you have the guy with a pentagram carved on his chest. And here's the Vitruvian Man. And we saw this in a recent video I just made as well. All three of those images represent the same thing. The perfect man, and in fact in the middle there is androgynous Adam, Adam Cadmon, with the two triangles right where it counts. All right, then they explain the pentagram. The pentacle is a pagan religious icon. The other guy says it's satanic or a sign of the devil worship. He says, well, it's actually the symbol for Venus, right? Venus. It represents the female half of all things, all right? That's what Venus represents, according to Tom Hanks. And the ancient Greeks used to worship the bearded Venus. And then they look here at the Mona Lisa. Historically, the left was female, the right was male. So they talk about different anomalies in this painting. The left side is more masculine, the right side is more female. And in fact, even modern-day scholars believe this is actually a man or some kind of transgendered person, possibly even Da Vinci himself in drag. Was the Mona Lisa based on Leonardo's male lover? Now you can see clearly the image on the left is a transgendered male to female. It's got female breast and a male phallus. This is a painting by Da Vinci, and in fact, the model on the left and right paintings were his male lover, and Mona Lisa certainly does resemble that person in the face and seems to be androgynous. And right here, this guy, an art historian, says a female and male model were used for Mona Lisa's face. Mona Lisa is androgynous, half man and half woman. I believe that this goes with a long-time fascination of Leonardo's, that is, the subject of androgyny. In other words, for Leonardo, the perfect person was a combination of a man and a woman. People rarely notice things right in front of their eyes. Gandalf telling us right there, secrets hiding in plain sight, which I believe is another quote in this movie somewhere. Then they talk about the secret societies. The Priory of Sion protects the source of God's power on earth. What could that be? What could be the source of their God's power? Not our God, but their gods. And we have the rose, the Guns and the Roses, the Androgyne, the Rosicrucians, the Rose Cross. Then the Knights Templars with the symbol of the cross. Limitless power, protecting the secret, concealing the secret from the masses, deceiving us. And then they talk about Constantine and the Roman Empire, right before they became pagan Christians. His people had worshipped a balance between nature's male deities and the goddess or the sacred feminine. What was the name of that book? The Symbols of the Sacred Feminine, all right? So they worshipped a balance between the male and female halves of God, the androgyne. This person obviously has achieved balance, right, the actor. I thought Constantine was Christian. He was a lifelong pagan. He decided to unify Rome under a single religion, a paganized form of Christianity. Then he says a young Jew named Jesus had come along preaching love and a single God, right? Instead of the androgynous God, the God of Israel is a father, all right? It's a male deity. And then Gandalf says, if you'd be so kind as to show us these symbols for man and woman, please. The professor of symbology will tell us this is the original icon for male. It's a rudimentary phallus, the triangle pointing up. Now, as you would imagine, the female symbol is its exact opposite, triangle pointing down. And the union of the two gives us not only the Israeli flag, but the rebus. And notice the one on our left, which is holding the chalice. And there you got Trump. There's another variation of the feminine chalice symbol in front of the flag. Mary Magdalene was Jesus' wife. All right, now this is the main point that everybody noticed about this movie in the book, right? It was like, oh, Jesus never got married. He didn't have a child, you know. But what does it all mean, though? Why did they even have this story? Just to talk about that? Well, there's more to it. Here it says mirror images of each other, and that person on the left is supposed to be Mary Magdalene. It does look quite feminine. Another painting by Da Vinci, by the way, so he likes to paint androgynous-looking people. The mind sees what it chooses to see. Notice how Jesus and Mary appear to be joined at the hip, all right? Joined at the hip like an androgyne, all right? That's the point. That's what they're saying here. This is the real point of this movie, that Jesus and Mary together represent an androgynous deity, all right? Mary Magdalene is the androgynous fulfillment of Jesus Christ. The pagans found transcendence or salvation through the joining of male to female, all right? The androgyne. Jesus Christ offers us true salvation, but that salvation competes against the androgyny version of salvation. This is the secret that the Priory of Sion, another Masonic secret society, they are the guardians of the royal bloodline, all right? The bloodline. So there's bloodlines, and there's androgyny, and there's androgynous deities, all right? Right here in this movie, that's what they're talking about. They have a mystical, a Gnostic view of Jesus Christ as being the divine androgyne, the new androgynous Adam. And of course, this entity's name is Sophie, and in fact, we're going to find out in this movie, spoiler alert, this is the descendant of Jesus Christ. That's the divine androgyne. Sophie is another name for a goddess, right? And here we got the blade and the chalice guarding over her gates, right? The blade is the male triangle, the chalice the female triangle. Notice they're telling us over and over again in this movie about these symbols for male and female. Symbol right there. We're very familiar with that symbol used by the masters. Fused as one. These are not just symbols that are separated. They are fused as one, as the pagans would have wanted. All right, spoken by the androgyne, who is fused as one himself, itself, I should say, themselves. And then later on, Tom Hanks says, maybe human is divine, right? It's another one of their beliefs. Human beings, we don't need a savior. We can save ourselves by becoming androgynous. And there he is reading his own book, Symbols of the Sacred Feminine, which this movie is filled with. And he opens the book, and of course it takes on the shape of the sacred feminine, the inverted triangle. And this, now remember this one here, Arago, and then you got the north and the south, the two poles, right? The polarity, balancing of magnetic forces and the balance of polarity. And the rose line represents the bloodline, representing the new androgynous race of man. Secret Doctrine, Volume 2. Io is the moon goddess of generation, for she is Isis and she is Eve, the great mother. This he calls the kingly race born in Argos, and that allows him to trace the bloodline to find the Holy Grail, the divine androgyne. It comes from Arg or Arca, the female generative power symbolized in the moon, the naviformed Arga of the mysteries, meaning the Queen of Heaven. All right, so Tom Hanks is looking down. He sees a symbol for the Queen of Heaven. Eustathius shows that in the dialect of the Argians, Io signified the moon, while esotericism explains it as the divine androgyne. And this movie, of course, directed by Ron Howard. And we see that little Opie's all grown up and has himself an androgynous child. All right. Someday they'd like to take their masks off and reveal their true identity to the world, but the world is not yet ready to handle their secrets. So Ron Howard's daughter has actually achieved balance. The balance of the male and the female generative principles has been achieved in Bryce Dallas Howard. All right. The body has become a vessel for the spirits. So we can see clearly good old Ron has himself an Adam's appled, large-skulled, broad-shouldered, divine androgyne. He made this movie for his child to learn about their religion, all right? That's why they make their movies. And in fact, this movie got poor ratings because it is kind of boring, but really they're focused more on the esoteric message than they are on plot and things like that. You know, that's why the average person gets bored watching these kind of movies. These are like religious movies for these people. They understand them. It's a movie about symbols that explained all the symbols, and nobody seemed to have noticed. And this person went to Jurassic Park. Looks like it had an androgynous baby, the moon bump. So they're getting their babies from Jurassic Park, from the island of Dr. Moreau, all right? Now I'm making another video to talk more about that, about the breeding program. Now, these are two different people, all right? Speaking of cloning, these are two different people. Jessica Chastain and Bryce Dallas Howard. Looks like they went to Jurassic Park, all right? Something funny's going on in Jurassic Park in the Holy Wood. Adam Cadmone seems to be replicating. They actually had to publicly deny that they were the same person, all right? So obviously they are both androgynes. And I'm being polite here so people don't get upset, because that's how they view themselves. They view themselves as the new androgynous race. This is the race of Io. This is Leda and the Swan. These are the modern-day Nephilim, bodies inhabited by spiritual entities. Bryce Dallas Howard finally confirms what we've all been wondering. I am not Jessica Chastain. And just a reminder, in case you forgot, Bryce Dallas Howard is not Jessica Chastain. All right, mass media actually had to tell people, no, these are actually not the same people. They do look identical, however. Maybe the rebus has just come out of the cosmic egg on Jurassic Park. All right, so these three images right here, same exact image. All right, the esoteric meaning is the same. They all represent the divine androgyne. All right, and here you go. There's the two-headed androgyne. They can't show us a two-headed Mary. That'll freak us out, right? So they have to separate them. Some of these go back hundreds of years. Some are more modern. And then you have square and the compass in Freemasonry. The square represents the moon in the female. The compass represents the male and the sun. Together, this symbol right here represents the divine androgyne. And, of course, these Masons love to cross-dress and wear the little aprons. What could they be telling us? In fact, there's a book out there saying that Masonry is Venus worship, and in fact that Masons are all castrated. And there's the alchemical symbol again of the two triangles, right? Mercury, you got all kinds of stuff going on there. All right, now we got the triangle and square. The material world is typified by the square as passive matter, in opposition to force symbolized by the triangle. The interlacing triangles or deltas symbolize the union of the two principles or forces, the active and passive male and female pervading the universe. The triangle and square together form the pyramid, as seen in the entered apprentice's apron. The Apprentice, right? What was the name of Donald Trump's TV show? The Apprentice. In this combination, the pyramid is the metaphor for unity of matter and force, as well as the oneness of man and God. There you go. The pyramid represents the divine androgyne. Point within a circle represents the phallus and the womb. The two principles in this united form floated on the surface of the waters after the flood during the period of their prevalence on the earth, and thus became the progenitors of a new race of men. Point within a circle, obelisk, and courtyard. Then he stands in front of the pyramid, and what does he see? The blade and chalice, again, guarding over her gates. All right, same exact line that was just used. It's the two triangles again. They found the loophole to open the portals to heaven. This is the Kabbalah's version of Adam. Adam Cadmone, androgynous Adam. The square, the circle, the square, the X, the two triangles, and at the end of the movie, Tom Hanks arrives here at the square and the circle and the X and the point within the circle between the two polarities, standing next to a pyramid on top of a sea of glass underneath these stars, and he looks up at the heavens while he's standing above the androgynous goddess, which is below him within a pyramid. He unites his two hands together in a symbol of unity, as world leaders have been doing around the world for centuries, in front of their symbols as they plan their agenda to roll out androgynous alchemy to the world. United Nations nominated Wonder Woman, who is Diana, who is the Queen of Heaven, as the ambassador for gender equality. And they may as well have just nominated the Baphomet as ambassador for gender equality. Wonder Woman is Diana. Diana is the Baphomet. And we see here, Diana was worshipped in the whole world 2,000 years ago and still is. Thanks for watching.